What's up, guys? All right. Just want to drop in and make a little video about a topic that I think is really relevant. Well, I know it's relevant right now. And I just want to offer a perspective on this that I don't necessarily see talked about very often. And it's been really helpful to me in my journey. And so the subject is suicide, and that's kind of a touchy subject these days, but it's something that has to be talked about because the statistics on that alone are kind of mind-boggling. Rates of suicide have gone way, way, way up, and there's many reasons for that. So I'll get into that a little bit, but I want to talk about specifically how to overcome that. And I want to do this as somebody who has overcome that, you guys. So I got to kind of come out on the record here and admit that I've spent a lot of my life very much wanting to end it, and thinking very seriously about that, putting a lot of energy into that fantasy, and even making some attempts at it. So I'll get into a little bit of why, my perspective on this, and why I think that if I was truly serious about ending my life, I wouldn't be here making this video. I would be dead. So I said I've attempted it, and I have, and what I did probably would have killed certain people, but it didn't kill me, obviously. And some part of me knew, I think, that it wouldn't work, because some part of me wasn't fully ready to do that. And so even though I did, I did chemical things. I tried to kill myself by overdosing, basically, 2 specific times where I was really serious about it, and it could have worked, and but it didn't. And I think if I was really, really serious about ending it, I would have gone another route. I would have done another method that was more likely to not fail. But really, I was, kind of experimenting, kind of playing with the hands of fate, if you will. And so my surviving those attempts kind of, affected me a lot, because kind of made me question, first of all, whether I really, really wanted to die. Because if I did, I probably would have succeeded, even though experientially for me, the feeling is like I want to die more than I want to live. I want to die more than anything else. Like, I've been that far down in this life. So, all right. So this is the perspective on that I want to just interject into the world, because I don't see a lot of this out there, and I think it's helpful. So when a person wants to die, people will respond to that a lot of ways. So first of all, it's generally not something that people want to talk about. I think when people are really serious about it, they're going to talk about it less than the person who is more, looking for an answer, and they're talking about it is a cry for help, essentially. And it's not to diminish what's going on, because it's serious, even if you are talking about it. I've had a lot of friends, by the way, just to qualify myself here, I've had dozens of friends in my 37 years actually do it and complete it, and that really, it's been traumatic for me. It's part of why this is something I care about a lot, because I see myself as a survivor of something, and there's no looking back for me. Like, I've made a commitment that's not how I'm going to go out. I'm not going to go out that way. I'm going to old age, car accident. I don't know the future, but I'm not going to do it by my own volition. That's not how I'm going to die. I refuse. And that's a commitment I made to myself. So how did I overcome this? This is what's important. So a lot of it had to do with perspective and understanding what's really going on. So when I say I want to die, the question is, what do I really mean by that? And do I really know what I mean? So when I'm in this state of wanting to die, do I really know what I mean when I'm having these thoughts? Like, when I'm fantasizing about ways to do it and I, running all these narratives about why it's not worth going on living and why this is a better idea, right? You ultimately, if anybody does this, their mind is going to talk them into it before they do it. So I listened to my mind doing that, and I got help along the way. I went to therapy and I got help. Ultimately, what the therapy did was it kind of planted seeds in my mind that later blossomed into realization, into understanding, a deeper understanding of what's really going on. But at the time when I was presented with the information, it didn't necessarily make sense to me, and it didn't necessarily solve the problem. Let's say I still wanted to die. So here's the perspective on this that for me is really important. So there is a wisdom in it, and it sounds weird to say because it's like if somebody says I want to kill myself, the last thing you want to do is encourage that, right? The last thing you want to do is encourage that. But on a level, a person that wants that is really wanting transformation. What they're saying they want is they want to transform. What they're saying they want is to abandon their current life. Now, if that means total death of the body, okay, well, that's one way. It's one way to abandon your life, but there are other ways. And so this is what this conclusion I had to come to was that, okay, my name's Tim. When I say, I'm going to speak in the third person here. So if I say like Tim wants to die, what is Tim? What is Tim? And on a level, perhaps I'm not crazy for wanting this. I'm not wrong for wanting this. It's just that I'd be wrong to do something final about it. Like we don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater kind of thing. It'd be wrong for me to actually end my biological, physiological life because there's a deep yearning for total transformation. So a person can die without physically dying. This is really the crux of it, you guys. And this is what happened to me. And it's a process too. I think it's continuing to happen to me. So a person that wants to die, really what they really, really want is a death and a rebirth process. They want transformation. They want metamorphosis. And so that's what needs to happen. But if you die physically, obviously, that's it. That's it for this iteration of you. Maybe there are others. I'm not going to comment on that. But you made it this far, right? You've survived this much. Maybe you owe it to yourself to see if you can't die and stay alive at the same time. So if I'm suicidal, a part of me needs to die. Absolutely. That part of me that wants to die needs to die. But I don't need to physically die for that to happen, you see? And so this has been my experience is the parts of me that wanted to die, they died. And in that process, I suffered tremendously. And in the process of losing that aspect of myself, well, something has to come in and replace it. So in combination with this dying process, there's a birth process too. You're being reborn and into a new way of being. And in order to achieve that new thing, you've got to drop the old thing. It's like shedding a skin. It's like a snake sheds its skin, or like a shellfish do the same. They give up their shell and then they go into a bigger one. So that's really what it is, you guys. I think that's the essence of what suicidal ideation is that you are somebody that desperately is in need of metamorphosis, of transformation, transcendence of the old self. Transcend it, leave that thing. And you can even sort of grieve it and bury it as if it were a real dying entity. You know, it's like, I'm putting this thing to rest. I'm burying it. It's dead now. And what's left is me minus that, you know? And so being that it wasn't all that long ago that I was still wanting to die, right? There are sort of imprints of that notion in my brain, and my brain might, you know, have these little trickling thoughts that are, you know, like hopelessness and futility, and like, maybe you should just end it, you know, and it's like, I just sort of notice it now. I notice those things, those thoughts, and I'm like, interesting. That's it. Part of me still is in the process of like, you know, I'm like excreting my old self, as gross as that sounds. So, you know, yeah. Anyway, so if you are somebody that happens to catch this video and you happen to be in that state, I can say that you're not crazy. You're not necessarily wrong for wanting this. But if you can reframe it and treat it as an opportunity to grow into something bigger and better, and somebody that doesn't want to die. But you've got to let go of whatever it is. And generally it's your identity, right? Because if you want to die, you're trying to destroy your identity. So let that identity crumble. Let it fall apart. And that hurts and that sucks. But I went through it, and on the other side is freedom. More freedom than you knew before. On the other side is more freedom and also new challenges, but challenges that you feel prepared to deal with, especially after overcoming something this intense, right? So if you can overcome a sincere desire to end your life and come out on the other side somebody that wants to live, you're strong. That's crazy strong. So what can't you do after that? You know, sky's the limit. So we don't need to look at this as a mistake, as an accident, as a disease, as a sickness, as you're wrong or you're stupid or you're selfish. It's none of that shit, you guys. That's really the point I want to make, is that deep within you is a wisdom, and that wisdom can be misinterpreted here. You know, the knowing here can get misinterpreted here. And so hopefully this helps you interpret what you already know in a way that's more conducive to you staying alive and sharing your gifts with the world, because they're there and the world could use them. So, all right.